Hello everyone, my name is Bridget Flood and I'm from Burundara Arts. I acknowledge the traditional owners as the original custodians of this land, including the Wurundjeri people in the northern part of our city, and pay my respects to their elders past and present, and to the elders from other communities who may be viewing this today. So I would like to welcome you all to today's Open House Melbourne session, along with Liz Ewers and Libby Love, from the Hawthorn Historical Society, as we explore and discover the iconic Hawthorn Arts Centre. Before we get started, I just like to run through some housekeeping for today's session. So today's format is that we will present a presentation, which you heard Liz and Libby may have spoken about before, about some images that might be coming up. Along with some other information about the heritage and the history, and about some architectural features. This session is a Zoom webinar, meaning that the only people who can be seen and heard is myself, Liz and Libby. If you'd like to ask us a question, you can do so by typing in the Q&A tab, which can be seen down the bottom or above your page, depending on how your Zoom is set up. So you can use the chat function with us to have comments, but if you want a question answered, please put it in the question and answer tab. So you are welcome also to ask questions throughout the presentation by typing in this section. However, we will hold off answering the questions hold off asking questions until the end of the session. This session is also being recorded and it will be uploaded to the Open House Melbourne website during this week. So if you've missed something or want somebody else to view it, or you need to leave early or anything like that, you can always come back and view the session. So that's all the housekeeping done. So we're really excited for this opportunity to be part of the virtual Open House Melbourne program and share the story of the Hawthorn Arts Centre. For over 130 years, the clock tower, which sits high above the centre, is a prominent fixture as you arrive at the gateway of the Glenferrie Road shopping precinct. So once you've seen the clock tower, you know that you've arrived in Hawthorn. The Arts Centre, of course, was once known as the Hawthorn Town Hall and has stood the test of time. And the word Hawthorn Town Hall has been used in many sentences which begin with, "When I met your mother at the dance at the Hawthorn Town Hall." I have the privilege of working in this beautiful building when actually going to work is an actual thing. And then I've walked through the exquisite foyer, stood in the main hall, which used to be the grand ballroom. I've had meetings in some of the heritage rooms, and I've walked through our beautiful town hall gallery space. What makes me more proud of working in this building is learning about the history and the heritage of it, and how it has gathered the community through times of celebration and hardship, including what we're experiencing in 2020. So today, Liz and Libby from the Hawthorn Historical Society will be sharing with us information all about this building and how it has come about. This site holds lots of history, and we may not be able to cover it all today, but we hope that you all learn something new. So Liz and Libby, welcome. And I'll start with the first question to Liz. And Liz, can you tell me about what interests you with the Hawthorn Arts Centre?
Well, I think it's to do with its connection to the history and life of Hawthorn. And this site has been central to Hawthorn for 160 years, and in this particular building for 130 years. It's been connected to the civic life of the city, but the lives of the citizens as well. And so there are many, many stories, if you can imagine, over those 160 years that tell us about how the inner ring suburbs of like Hawthorn developed. So I think that's fascinating. The other thing is that the building itself, as our homes change, the building has changed because we live in different ways, and the communities had different needs from different times. And as the population expands, some of the work of that town hall building, or that civic building, has had to move out. So like the post office and the police courts and so on. So I think it's the way that the building has changed and developed and grown, and it's still doing that, even as we speak, that it has changed with the life of the city. So, yeah.
I think also the way that it's brought the community together over a long period of time has been very special. As Bridget said, nearly everybody has some kind of story that connects them with this space, either through their parents or directly through themselves, through workshops and events and concerts and balls and the art gallery. And so it's got enormous social value for this community. I guess now it's become the flagship destination also for cultural and civic celebrations. It's got a state-of-the-art Hawthorn Arts Centre, which offers an exciting and diverse program. And even during the COVID-19 pandemic, it's still utilised in a very positive way. As you can see, this is the current setup in the beautiful ballroom to accommodate for immunisation programs. Unfortunately, not for the COVID vaccine as yet. So I think it's perhaps useful to think about how we might discuss today, thinking back to the exhibition we did a couple of years ago to celebrate this town hall's 130 years. And it was a great experience for us. Here you can see the beautiful art gallery set up for our exhibition. Liz on the left, me on the right, and Ellie Grosh, the curator of the Arts Centre, in the middle. And it's really nice from our point of view to see it set up as an historic exhibition rather than just as an art gallery. So we tried to use the exhibition to showcase a number of things like how the building had evolved, the architecture, the way it had been used for arts and entertainment, and even in terms of public meeting house. So possibly the most enjoyable part of this exhibition was the ability to learn a bit more about the people and the story behind the main players, I guess, in Hawthorn's development. So perhaps that might be the end of that little section.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Libby. So Liz, can you tell us about the laying of the foundation stone for the new town hall and how this laid out the framework of building the Hawthorn community?
So I love this sketch that's actually held by the State Library of Victoria. So this is 1861, the sketch was made, and if you look sort of in the middle distance, you can see the town hall that was first built in 1861. So there's the town hall back there. And I want you to imagine that you've just walked across the bridge from Richmond. You've come up Bridge Road, Richmond, and you've crossed over the bridge, and you're standing at the top of St James Park looking down here. So in 1861, the railway has just arrived in Hawthorn, and we have the railway line showing on the right, centre on the right. You can see the little steam train there and some 4 little carriages there. So the railway line was brought to Hawthorn in 1861 and it stopped there. So the town of Hawthorn had been laid out in the 1850s, so just on the other side of Burwood Road. That road there going down the middle is Burwood Road, and there the town is laid out. Sorry, was there a...
Oh, no, yeah.
No, that's all right. The Burundara was declared in the 1840s and encompassed pretty much the area of Borondara as it is at the moment. The Borondara Roads Board was formed so that people could take care of the roads. But in 1860, the municipality of Hawthorn broke away, and then the population then increased. And you would understand in 1851, the population in Victoria dramatically increased because of the gold rush, and people were coming through Hawthorn out towards the goldfields in the east. So the train has stopped at Hawthorn Station, and that image on the left shows the hansom cab that you would have caught at the Hawthorn Station to take you up to Upper Hawthorn. And then in 1882, the railway line went all the way through to Glenferrie. So the other image is looking down Glenferrie Road from, say, Burwood Road, looking north. And there you can see the railway line with the railway gates. And it wasn't until 1913 that the railway line was raised up. So the population could now get the train to Hawthorn, to Auburn, to Camberwell and beyond to Lilydale in the 1880s. And so the population by 1890 was about 20,000, no, just under 20,000 people. So in 1860, the population was a couple of thousand. You can see that there's a big increase in the population. And so by the 1880s, Hawthorn was developing, and the municipal fathers decided they needed a new town hall, but more of that later. So and just to sort of cap it all off, that Hawthorn was independent from 1861, and then in 1994, the state government amalgamated many of the municipalities, and so we became Borondara again. So coming back to 1861, let's have a closer look at that old town hall on the hill that was in the distance in that lovely sketch.
Okay, so this is the first town hall. It was built by Charles Turner. It's on exactly the same site as the current Hawthorn Arts Centre. And you can see there's a lovely fire tower there, because not only did this house the council chamber and the offices, but it also had to be the centre for the whole of the community. So it had the post office and the library, and it was quite a modest building. Didn't cost very much, and surprisingly enough, it was built here in Glenferrie, which really hadn't developed very much yet until 20 years later when the train came through. The next image, though, I think, I know perhaps, sorry, yes, okay, so they had a competition. In 1890, they were going to become a city, and so there was still a town in 1888 when they decided that that old, rather modest town hall wasn't going to be fit for purpose anymore. So they decided to hold a competition. And the interesting thing is that they were very frugal gentlemen at that time. They had 20 submissions for their competition, and the prize money was £100. And you'll notice the first and the third conditions of this. The first one was that the total sum to be expended on the building was not to be exceeding $9,300. Well, we all know that that sort of proclamation doesn't work when you come to these sorts of projects, and of course it blossomed out to almost £16,000 in the end. However, that was the first of the brief. The other was that even though this was going to be a totally new design of the town hall and the office, you had to utilise as much of the old material as you possibly could, and perhaps even maintain part of the present building if you could. So the architect who won this was John Beswick. He was about 40 at the time. He was quite well established. He was living in Harcourt Street, Hawthorn. In fact, he had went on to build a number of mansion houses in Harcourt today, which is a lovely stroll if you're wanting to admire them. And here he is with his extended family in the picture on the left. So he was the architect and he set to work. The issue of, what shall I say, the issue of the building was still a bit problematic. Perhaps because Mrs. Haverty, who had been in the post office for a number of years, decided that the accommodation that had been given to her was inadequate. And so she refused to move out until the accommodation was to her standard. So that delayed the process. Also, as is often the case, the council decided that they wanted a few extra features. And so there was quite a problem with that building initially, although it went reasonably quickly. This is an image showing the foundation stone of the new town hall being laid. So you can see that part of the building has already been demolished and maybe a bit more to go. But if they were going to be laying the foundation stone, there must have been some remnants of the old building there. In fact, I've heard from council staff that the supper room at the underneath, what we would call underneath at the back of the current town hall, was probably original, and they have seen some handmade nails holding all this together. The builder of this new building was James Anderson, and the foundation stone you can see in this next image is at the front of the town hall currently. It was put in place by Thomas Barrett, who was mayor at the time, although the next year he had relinquished that role. There's a time capsule actually behind this foundation stone. The newspapers of the day and the list of councillors were placed in there behind. And as far as I know, there is no date for its opening, but I think it would be quite a treat if I'm around and anybody ever gets around to it. I will be first to have a look.
So now that we have this new building, what was the new town hall used for?
Yes, I was just going to say that when they opened the building in 1889, the mayor was actually Councillor Westley, James Westley, and they had a big ball for 800 guests there. So although Barrett unveiled the foundation stone, Westley was the mayor when it was opened. The building is actually, if you can imagine 3 prongs of a fork. You can have a 3-pronged, a trident maybe. So in fact, it's built as a facade across the front with 3 buildings behind, 3 separate buildings behind in the original building. And when you go in there now, you can see some evidence of where the buildings have been joined together along the back. But there were these 3 areas. So to the east, away from the city, there was a courthouse and the police lockup. And on the east side, the city side, there was the post office, and the central one was for civic purposes, and the fire brigade at the back. So not many people note that there are actually 2 towers on the building, and there was the fire brigade at the back. But perhaps Libby can tell you more about them.
Well, I love this photo actually. It's the Hawthorn Volunteer Fire Brigade, and it was formed in 1871. The central picture actually shows the fire cart, and it's behind the original, so that's the first Hawthorn Town Hall. And just to the bottom left of that, you'll see the J Lord and H Lord. J Lord was the captain of the crew, and his brother next door was Henry, who later became a mayor of Hawthorn. They were a very hard-working group. The reason being that they all had a full-time job apart from being volunteers. They were the local tradesmen. I guess they ran their own businesses, so they were able to drop that if the fire bell weren't out. They were actively competing in the regular games that were held. And you can see on the right hand side of the screen, this was the certificate that was awarded to them for, they got first prize in, now what was it, representative for 4 men, and there are a number of events which I think we've got a lithograph of later, but just to, oh, there we go. Obviously running with the fire hose, climbing the ladders, and I think these ones are from the Australasian, lithographs from the Australasian. Bridget, if you don't mind just going back one. Mm-hmm. Here you can see at the rear of the current town hall, the fire tower that was built. So a bell was suspended from the side, and the hoses were hung out to dry along the side, and the fire carts were in the basement area underneath, currently at the back sort of entrance of the town hall, and even the horses were stabled underneath there. So perhaps Liz can tell us about the library.
Oh yes, this gentleman is Apollos Slattery. And he was born in 1829, not a long time ago. But not only was he the librarian, before that he was the proprietor of Hawthorn's first newspaper, which was the South Burke Standard, and which operated from 1861 to 1873. And has some wonderful information about early Hawthorn, and is worth looking at on Trove if you want to know things about early Hawthorn. But they had the printing press down in Burwood Road, just near the Glenferrie Hotel it was, and they were booksellers and stationers and so on. And he became town clerk in 1873. Perhaps that's when he gave up having the South Burke Standard. He was town clerk and rate collector, and eventually he retired, but he was also the librarian. Now, he had failing eyesight, so I'm not quite sure how he managed to operate the library, but in any case, I think he had his daughters to help him with that. But the original library was in the town hall from 1861. It was started with a loan of 350 books from the Melbourne City Library, which I think became the State Library of Victoria, and they loaned out books to the library. And then they kept a room in the town hall. And then in 1910, when the post office moved from the town hall to the lovely building on the corner of Kent Street, the library went downstairs, and you can see that it is open to the public on various days, the Hawthorn Free Library. So that was Apollos Slattery. Yes, it's open to the public from 2 to 5 p.m. every evening from 7 till 10, and on Saturdays as well. So a good service to the public. So there you go. So that was the library. And what about on the other side was the police station?
Right, so the police station and lockup were mostly accessed from one of those back lanes, I guess, between the three pavilions. And the Hawthorn Court also met there. Most of the time the presiding judge was the local mayor and a few justices of the peace. These little cuttings are from the newspaper in the 1890s. Back in the days of the first town hall, of course, the kinds of things that you would have been pulled up for were letting your goat or your horse wander, and particularly wandering over somebody else's bricks that had been laid out to dry, because Hawthorn at that time was quite a well-known brick-making area. In later times, it was sort of having the pub open after hours, or being drunk and disorderly, or a robbery. The one on the top I thought was a little bit unfair, because the two gentlemen were drunk and disorderly and they were discharged with a caution, but the lady who was drunk and disorderly was fined and was kept for 48 hours in imprisonment. So I thought that was a bit unfair. The other little cutting is about the careless postman, and presumably he pocketed whatever he found in the envelopes that he failed to deliver. But that always amused me anyway.
So you've talked about how the site has been used for municipal reasons. Can you talk to us about how the community has used this building in the past?
I saw in the Q&A someone was saying that they were there for the West Hawthorn primary school, a concert with their sister. I thought that was delightful. This is a more civic celebration. This was when Hawthorn became a city. It's proclaimed a city in 1890, and Lord Hopetoun arrived to make this declaration. He was the Governor of Victoria, and actually later he became the first Governor General of Australia after Federation. But Lord Hopetoun arrived. There was a guard of honour with students, cadet students from Scott College and Camberwell Grammar, and I think other schools, not sure. He and his entourage paraded along all the streets of Hawthorn. Then they came back to the town hall for a big lunch for 200 people. So there was a big banquet. So if we move on, now 50 years, this on the left is the town hall lit up with electric lights. Now this is in 1910, so they were celebrating the Jubilee, 50 years since Hawthorn became a municipality when it separated from the Borondara Roads Board. In fact, Hawthorn was not electrified until 1911. So this was an early, these were early electric lights on this building. But I just want to read you a short excerpt about this evening. It says, Hawthorn, Glenferrie and Auburn were lantern cities on Monday night when the Jubilee of the municipality was celebrated. The lanterns extended in an almost unbroken canopy of light from beyond the corner of Burwood Road and Camberwell Road, Auburn, to Lower Hawthorn, that would be towards Richmond, and then wound round various streets back to Glenferrie Road. There were over 2 miles of light, not dazzling, searching electric light, but dreamy, reposeful lantern light, soothing to the sight. The main feature of the evening was a procession, and a large section of the population of the metropolis crowded into the streets of the suburb to witness it. So what a beautiful setting that was. I might hand over to Libby to talk about the City Band.
Right, well, this is the Hawthorn City Band, which has been integral in so many of the civic and community activities that have gone on in Hawthorn over the years, particularly those at the Hawthorn Town Hall. And this was a very special occasion. A number of the mayors and councillors were either presidents or members of the Hawthorn City Band, so it got a lot of gigs. This is the 1939 photo of recording that was that took place in the Hawthorn Town Hall in August. So not exactly this month, but next month, all those years ago. The thing that I guess is been foremost in the town hall's enjoyment by the community has been a lot of the arts and entertainment that's gone on there. So as well as the Hawthorn City Band, there have been Sunday Classic series, Stedfords, etc. The other thing that's, I guess, has been an ongoing feature was that Saturday night dance that went on for about 70 years on a ballroom dancing. And the craft market, which has gone on for 40 odd years. The other thing, I guess, has been the balls. This might seem an old-fashioned idea. The picture that you see on the right is obviously the ladies being presented as Debs, but the photo on the left shows Sam Coffer from the 1980s as mayor, and he decided to reinvigorate this process, I guess, of having Debs, and it was a fundraising for charity at the time. So the community have really embraced the musical and arts part of the town hall. There used to be New Year's Eve singing. Every New Year's Eve, about 11 o'clock, the locals would meet outside the town hall. They would sing and end with a rousing chorus, and then they'd all poddle off home to bed. And that was often conducted by Teddy Rigg, who was a councillor for a number of years. There he is on the left, speaking to the mayor of the day, Charles Daly, and this is from 1907. 1907, I'll probably be corrected, Living Hawthorn movie, which is a great silent movie, shows the streets and the businesses of Hawthorn as it progresses as a camera on a car travels up the road, Burwood Road towards Camberwell. So the other thing that I guess has been at the forefront is the use of the place by the local sports groups. And we've had the rifle club, the lacrosse, the local footy teams, all those sorts of community organisations would hold their annual dances there and so forth. This one, this lovely image of the town hall with absolutely packed to the rafters, even people, in the standing on the side because they couldn't get seats, was a testimonial for a chap called, I've forgotten his name, this is terrible, Titch Utting. Titch, I think, was his nickname. And there is the gentleman, the one that's looking actually a little bit startled in the front row there. He was a very well-known Hawthorn player, and this was taken in 1939 at the town hall, and the kids obviously came out for the occasion because they've had to give up their seats for the adults. The connection between the football club and the council, mayors and the town hall was very strong. A number of the councillors were members of the Hawthorn Football Club. The groundsmen were the same as the Hawthorn groundsmen. And so a lot of the machinery for maintaining the oval and so forth was actually kept underneath the town hall. So what's happened over the years is every time there's been a Hawthorn premiership, the premiership captain has been invited to become mayor of the day. This is actually not exactly that. It's showing on the right, it's showing John Peck being offered the robes and the chain, with the mayor on the right of the day, who was Gerard Phillips. Now, the reason why this gentleman was allowed to wear the robes was that he kicked the winning goal after the siren in 1960 to win Hawthorn their premiership. But what usually happened was that there was a ceremony and the key to the city was offered to the club. And that's an example of that. These images are from the Hawkes Museum. There were school speech nights, and I myself remember being in the 1967 Strathcona School musical of The Sentimental Bloke at the Town Hall. And I can tell you that the accommodation at the rear was not nearly as fancy as it is today. But Hawthorn West used to have their school ball there, and I'm sure there'll be many others listening in who remember that kind of thing. And I've also mentioned the craft market, perhaps, which was there for a long period of time and has now been reinstated, but with a new vamp, and it's called Hawthorn's Makers Market. Is that right, Bridget?
Yep, that is right.
Got to get my words right. So perhaps I'll ask Liz to talk about how the Town Hall has served its purpose during times of crisis.
Well, yes, indeed. And this is these images are from 1915 in the kitchens at the Town Hall, where they are making soup and dainties to take to the base hospital for soldiers who are in the base hospital there. And I believe the lady on the left of that kitchen, on the kitchen one, oh, yes.
Sorry.
That's fine, that's fine. I believe the lady on the left, oh no, it's the one in the middle holding the white bowl. So she was that's Matron McMahon, who was working for the Red Cross. And then they jumped in this lovely jalopy to take them down to the base hospital. And it had said that this was the Lady Mayoress in this image, and I assumed that the Lady Mayoress was the lady in the fur coat, but she in fact was Alice McCulloch. Now this is 1915. This was Miss McCulloch's car, and she was driving. It would have been fairly unusual for women to be driving and for women to own a car, well, for anybody to be owning a car, but that's Alice McCulloch in that vehicle, and Matron McMahon in the middle, and the Lady Mayoress is the one standing in the vehicle with the perky little black hat, and she's Delia Russell. Her husband, Percy Russell, was the mayor. And she was a great doer of good works. And I think we talked about Percy Rigg. You can just see behind the car, it says vaudeville. And Percy Rigg used to have vaudeville nights at the Town Hall. So if you can just see that on the side of the building, I just noticed that. Mm-hmm. Yes, so there they are taking food and dainties to the soldiers, but there were also people making camouflage nets and so on during the wartime, and even now with COVID there's vaccinations going on, so the building is adapting pretty well. And for many years, Meals on Wheels was prepared in the Town Hall kitchens. There were programs for people during the Depression as well. People would queue for work projects, for handouts and so on. So the building's done some hard yards along the way. But yes, but also there've been a lot of other community activities going on.
Perhaps I'll talk a little bit about the political meetings, or the way the community has found their voice. You'd think that perhaps Hawthorn would be a rather conservative group, but over the years there's been quite a few rowdy meetings at the town hall, those for and those against conscription, perhaps in the First World War. And the community has been able to voice its opinion at election rallies and so forth. This image that's up on the moment, on the screen at the moment on the left-hand side, is talking about the Taronga Village development in 1991. And the council, Hawthorn Council as well as Malvern Council, were against this Hudson Conway development in the form that it was proposed at that time. And there were a number of public meetings to garnish support for opposition to this, as you can see by the poster. The other so apart from the opposition to development, like Save Our Suburbs and so forth used to meet there, those kinds of things, there were also protests about possible amalgamation. The state government has, I guess, over many years had wanted greater efficiency and accountability, and they had been pushing on a number of occasions for amalgamation, all of which had been rejected. And on this particular occasion also, in the 1990, building up in the 1980s, there was a move to amalgamate Camberwell, Hawthorn and Kew, and that indeed is what did happen in 1994. And so we have a return to the city of Boroondara from the parish of Boroondara, and the council at that time also sent out mail outs, and there were meetings at the town hall to discourage, I guess, amalgamation, but it was inevitable, and there was a rather big shindig, I guess, for the last council meeting held in the town hall. So perhaps that's an interesting area that people even today maybe still be protesting and utilising the town hall in that way.
Yeah, sure. Great, thank you. So can you please point out some of the architectural features throughout the building and how it's changed over time?
Yes, this is an interesting postcard image of Burwood Road looking towards the city, and you can date this by the absence of the clock. The clock was installed in 1911. More of that later. I'll just point out the top part of the building. They talk about the Second Empire style, which was, if you can picture Paris, this would be Second Empire. And one of the features is the use of ironwork and the rather sort of sloping roof right at the top of the tower, or mansard roof, was typically of the Second Empire style. So to the clock, the citizens of Hawthorn knew that there was a space for the clock, but it was embarrassing because up the road at the Tower Hotel, they had a clock, and the citizens had to get their time from a hotel was embarrassing. So the city's fathers decided it was time to get the clock in. So it was installed in 1911, and I'm told that the diameter is 6'9", and the numerals are 11 inches. So all of those who can remember imperial measures, you'll know how big that was. So this is the mayoress, the acting mayoress, Miss Gibney. Miss Gibney was the mayor, and Miss Gibney was his daughter. He was a widow. And this was to the installation of the clock. At the arrival of the appropriate moment, the acting mayoress, Miss Gibney, severed a ribbon stretching from the balustrading of the balcony to the clock tower. There was a pause, and then the clock, as if conscious of the importance of the occasion, solemnly chimed 12 times. There was loud cheering and much hand clapping from the street. This gave way to laughter as the hands set out to overtake the time. 1 o'clock flew past, then 2 and 3, and at 9 minutes past 3, the new clock took up its task of recording standard time for Hawthorn. This is Miss Gibney setting things in motion and the excitement to do with the clock. The clock tower, and I'll let Libby talk about the view from the clock tower, because you might be able to go there one day, but only virtually, I think.
Yes, this is a virtual view of Hawthorn from the clock tower, again from our exhibition. It was created by Barney Mayer, and the reason why we're sort of showing it is that it's interactive. So later on there'll be a link to this, and you will be able to click on the little blue dot and see various views of the building, 360 views. And when you interact with those little blue information, you'll get some further history of the building. So the way that the building has adapted, I guess, has been in a number of stages, main stages, although there's been a lot of tinkering with it as time goes on. So it's sometimes hard to know exactly what happened when. I guess the two main things are the portico, which was added in 1930s. There was a big development in 1930s, I think, to counteract the depression and poor economic time. And like a lot of governments in terms of crisis, they like to offer some work for people. So this is when the portico was added. And here is a view from Open House Melbourne on a previous years, where you can go out onto the portico, look around, look up and down the street, and I want you to visualise what it was like when the town hall was actually built. There was a lot of building going on at that time. We complain about the building interruptions in Burwood Road or Glenferrie Road as we drive around in better times, but there's a lot happening here. The building across the road, Immaculate Conception Church, the commercial bank on the corner of Glenferrie and Burwood, as well as Langham's Hotel. I think the other sort of area, that other thing that in the 1930s that were added, we'll come to in a minute. I just want to show you the crest. If you were out on the portico and you looked up, you would see the crest of Hawthorn, and there's the little train coming in. You can't see the Latin, but it translation means out of the shade, into the sunlight. So it's a looking forward, an aspirational type quotation. So then when we look at the other things that happened in the 1930s, there's the Art Deco features that are so beautiful in the town hall. The light on the left is in the upper landing, which allows you to then entry to the chamber and the meeting rooms, and also the balcony of the for the ballroom, and these lovely chandeliers which can be lowered for cleaning. They weigh 1200 weight, and I think they're rather beautiful, particularly when the whole of the ballroom is set up for a function. I find it very appealing. Mm-hmm. Here is a picture actually of the ballroom. We were trying to date this and decided that it must have been when the light was still coming in from those three fingers that we talked about of the pavilion coming into the ballroom at that time. You can see there are some murals and so forth on the wall. And the next image, I think, shows probably the murals on the wall by Peter Hansen. This is a photo from the Mayor's Ball. William Cowper in 1902. And at the very rear, I don't know whether Bridget, you can bring that up a little bit better, but you can see one of the murals on there. And also on the side walls, also on the roof, there were cherubs and wine glasses, and I gather it was duck blue, but I think they've, since then it has been, the ceiling has been lowered for ventilation and purposes. And so that has been lost, but that was very beautiful. In the 1910s, of course, they added the Juliet balcony and the balcony at the back of the ballroom. Remember that first image, it wasn't there, and now it is by 1910. And there are some lovely architectural features in this ballroom. There's the Juliet balcony, where the orchestra might have played. The top right-hand corner, you can see the decoration around the balcony at the back of the ballroom. And in the lower picture, you'll see even the ventilation chutes are still rather decorative and beautiful. Perhaps Liz can tell us about the other gorgeous feature that leads upstairs to the foyer.
Yes.
The upper foyer.
Yes, this particular staircase is of Lilydale marble and part of the 1930s renovation. The stained glass window was not in that position originally, but was donated by the architect John Beswick to the city. And there is some question about whether he did this in his generosity because the cost of the building had blown out somewhat, but who knows. The stained glass window was made by William Montgomery, who was a stained glass artist and had a business in Hawthorn, and did a lot of work with John Beswick. So if you can imagine those Victorian houses with the stained glass windows around the front door or on the fan light and so on, William Montgomery would have done those for a lot of the Beswick houses. So he was a renowned artist for the stained glass. So prosperity, and certainly the citizens of Hawthorn were looking to a period of prosperity. And there are various symbols of that in the cornucopia, in the grapes, in the wheat, and so on, that are bringing up notions of prosperity for the citizens of Hawthorn. And also on this upper level is the chamber. So Libby, perhaps you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes, this is probably the chamber which we would now currently call the Mayor's Room. It wasn't until the police and the courthouse moved that the council could move into the current, what we call the chamber. So the new chamber was established much later. I'll just see if we move to that picture. So this was the previous courthouse, and it must have had a very high ceiling, because when it moved out, what they did was excavate at the ground floor level a little bit more and put in a mezzanine. So they were able to keep this beautiful truss ceiling of the courthouse in the new chamber. And you'll notice that the furniture which we saw in the previous image can be used in here for the council building, council function, I beg your pardon. Offices have needed to be expanded over the years. There was an extension in 1976 and another one in 1980 when the Motorbolts building was acquired. So the amalgamation, of course, when that occurred in 1994, that meant that those offices were no longer required for council purposes, civic council purposes. And so the council have developed, well, this is if you move to the next image, you'll see what the Motorbolts building looked like. And in 2013, 2012, 2013, Peddlethorpe were asked to reimagine the town hall as an arts centre, a performing arts centre, and visual arts as well. So you can offer now performances, theatre workshops, artist studios, the gallery, performing theatre, as well as ticketing and so forth. And these pictures here show the contrast, I guess, between the rather lurid red carpet and the more sedate redevelopment over time. And I think you'll agree that it looks a very impressive place now. And even the this is the chandelier room adjacent. It's, I guess, in an area that probably used to be the post office and the sorting rooms, but it's got a lovely new lease of life now as a meeting area. There are even, I'm not sure if there's another image of that. Yes, this is the Zelman room on the other side of the town hall, on the east side of the ballroom, upstairs. And this is the foyer that I was talking about before, and I love these the light with the coming in through the roof, just beautiful.
Yeah. So that's all the images that we have of the architectural features. Can you tell us who's kept this building going over the time, over its 130 years?
Okay. Yes, I just thought we'd mention these two people. One is, this lady is Betty Marginson, and we selected her because she was the first female mayor for Hawthorn. She was the second female mayor for a municipality in Victoria, but I can't find who was the first one. And she's wearing the mayoral chain with that lovely big drop with the crest of Hawthorn on it. If you want to see the original chain, the chains of Hawthorn, Kew and Camberwell are at the council offices in Inglesby Road. So have a look sometime, next time you're going to a council meeting. William Broad, William Broadhall served the council for something like 50 years, 51 years, I think it says, 1891 to 1942. He started as a junior clerk and he became town clerk and treasurer for 38 years. Oh, somebody's answered that question. There was, oh, it's gone. Somebody has suggested Councillor Esther Polman in Box Hill might have been the first female mayor of a municipality. So thank you for answering that question. Yeah, so there is Mr. Broadhall, 51 years working for the same employer. It's hard to imagine that these days. So he rose from junior clerk to become the town clerk. Serving the city for a long time. And this is Alex Withy, who was the hall keeper. So, Libby, maybe you can talk about Alex Withy.
Well, he, again, was a very long-serving staff member. So as well as staff, we had councillors who were there for, say, 25 or 45 years as well. So he had a lot of continuity. And I think that makes a difference to the smooth running of the place. This is Alec up on the flagpole, almost. It was part of his job to set up for events, to prepare for council meetings, to act as usher to the mayor, to council meetings, to offer preparation for dignitaries and meetings and so forth. He and his family lived in the town hall for 17 years of his 26 years as a council employee. and part of his job was to raise and lower the flag. So that was quite a feat when the wind was blowing, because it's a very tall tower, and also you have to climb up these very narrow steps to get to the top part where you can raise the flag. The secret, I guess, was that you could only fly the flags when the light, when it was illuminated. And so before lights were added to that tower, it had to be brought down every night and put up every morning. There are stories also of having to answer the phone late at night to the after hours number, and to go and alert people in the ballroom that the Greek ambassador was going to be late and you were in your pajamas. So, you know, there's some lovely stories which are heard on our recollections. We have a video of interviews of various people who have strong connections to the town hall, and they're reminiscing about it over time. So we've tried to show you, I guess, some of the highlights of the building, and if you could imagine yourself in the place today, I think you would be totally impressed with the way it has been pulled together to still serve the community. So I'm just going to ask Bridget if she wouldn't mind talking a little bit about the Boroondara Arts and Boroondara Arts program that's offered.
Thanks, Libby. As Libby just mentioned, that now it's the Hawthorn Arts Centre is home to Boroondara Arts, Boroondara Youth, along with the Hawthorn Artists Society and Headspace, and also in the old Hall Keeper's residence where he and his family lived is now 6 artist studios, which like artists work and create new work. So it's still, there's a lease of life in all of the spaces that we use. So the centre is also home to the Town Hall Gallery, which boasts 4 gallery spaces for the community where they can display their work, and also for the community to view exhibitions of some really well-known artists within Boroondara and outside of Boroondara. The main hall, as you have seen before, is used now for immunisation and also is home for regular performances and community events, including like community performances by Camberwell Chorale, Zelwyn Symphony Orchestra, and also the Scouts annual Camberwell Showtime event. The venue is also used for weddings and meetings and conferences and workshops, and it's the heart of the Boroondara arts community. So at this stage, we're going to, unfortunately, we've run out of time for too many questions, but there was one question in regards to Liz and Libby. Who's the lady in the stained glass window? Do we know who that lady is? Let me see if I can find that image again.
I'm not sure. So it was about the lady in the stained glass.
Yeah.
I'm not sure unless Libby knows. The other one was to do with the paintings on the wall. I think Peter Hansen was a Danish artist. His work is also, you can see it at the National Trust property La Bassa. He died in 1916, I believe. I think the lady in the hall, I think they are just a generic muse or something of that sort. I don't think it's in anyone specific. I don't actually know who this lady in the stained glass is.
Something to research.
mother, somebody or other, the mother of the world. We'll have a look. I'll see if we can find the specifications for the stained glass.
Yeah, that would be a great idea. So I guess that's all the time we have for today's session. As you can see, there's a lot of information to get through and to see. So I would like to take this opportunity to thank you all for viewing and listening to and taking part in this session. It's been nice to have some company on this very different Open House Melbourne weekend. After this session, I'm going to send you an email which has some links that may be of interest to you all that the Hawthorn Historical Society have sent through. So I'll send you the email which have the links and so you can do some further research yourself. The email will also have the contact details of the Hawthorn Historical Society. So if you do want to get in touch with them for more information about the centre and the history of it, or if you'd like to join the society, I'm sure they'll definitely tell you how to do that. Also, I'm going to provide you just a link to a very short survey which will take you 90 seconds, and that's for you to let us know what you thought of today's session. This virtual programming is very new to us all, and any encouragement or constructive feedback is very much welcome, so we can continue to deliver these types of events to you all in the future. I'll also let you know that we do have a virtual tour of the Hawthorn Arts Centre on the Open House Melbourne website, which you can view at your own leisure. And it's a fascinating video, and it really does take you to the little spots, and also to a bullet hole which can be found in the chamber. So please have a look. Also, please keep exploring the Open House Melbourne buildings, which are in the city of Boroondara. So we have the Lionhouse Museum and the Tay Cregan, which they have some fantastic and fun and interactive program which you can take part this weekend. And you also can take a virtual tour of the Villa Albert Museum. Also tomorrow, I'll be hosting another panel discussion with the Kew Historical Society and to talk about Council's other cultural facility, which is the Kew Courthouse. So that's at 2:30 p.m. It'll be great to see you there. So all of the programming can be found on the Open House Melbourne website or through the City of Boroondara's website, and I'll put that information in the email as well. I'd like to just acknowledge the staff of Boroondara Arts for their support in helping to deliver this online program to you all, including the curators of the Town Hall Gallery who have assisted the Hawthorn Historical Society in the past of curating their exhibition. Also just acknowledging the Boroondara Library Service, State Library of Victoria and the National Library of Australia for the use of images and artefacts. And finally, I'd like to say a big thank you to Liz and Libby from the Hawthorn Historical Society. I think I've said enough that name a lot today. It's been such a joy today to chat to you about the Arts Centre, and I've always learned something new from you each time I chat to you. And thank you for your time and your preparation that you've put into this. So on behalf of everyone who's listening and viewing, thank you so much. And also thank you again for all of you joining us today. Enjoy your Open House Melbourne weekend and stay safe. So bye for now. Thank you.